Okay, Barry, I think that'll have to work. I ran out of craft foam to make a tie, so I just had to take a piece of paper and tape. So only the best for you, Barry. There we go. Okay. Hey everybody, how you doing? Teching here, and check this out. You know what this is? This is a shield. You know what it's used for? Well, I think this thing is used to like destroy Calamity Ganon and save all of Hyrule. But in general, a shield is meant to protect, and that's what we're talking about today. CP Aegis Zero, the protectors of the Tenryubito. Okay, so first and foremost, actually, I believe I'm finally pronouncing that word correctly. I don't know. It's one of those words in One Piece that was just like, I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, but I'll worry about it when I finally make a video about it that's like dedicated. And here we are. I've said Aegis, I've said Aegis. I went and watched the episode of the anime that like introduces, well, not the one that introduced them, but the one where they showed up at Reverie, and the narrator comes on. And it's like, this is Cipher Pol Aigis Zero. I'm like, Aegis. I had to like listen to that like 5 times. I'm like, okay, he's saying Aegis. Now keep in mind, this is a Greek word we're talking about, and there's a someone that speaks Japanese saying a Greek word, so that pronunciation might not be perfect, but that's what they say in the anime, so I'm going along with that. All right. So the Cipher Pol is an organization that the world government controls. And just to give you a little bit of an abridged recap on everything involving the Cipher Pols. Cipher Pols 1 through 8 are well known throughout the world. Okay, they are not secret organizations. Think of them like the FBI or the CIA. Everybody, even normal citizens, know that they exist. We don't really see much of them. In fact, I don't think we've seen anything from CPs 1 through 4, and also CP8. I don't think we know anything from them either, but we've seen CP5. That was the organization led up by Spondum before Spondum was the commander of CP9. He led up CP5. That was during the time of Tom and Frankie and Iceberg after they finished the Sea Train and all that stuff. CP6, we see Jerry is a member of that. CP7 is Wanzei's unit. I don't think we know anything about CP8 or where they're based or anything like that. And then CP9 is something special. We'll get to that in a second. But yeah, CPs 1 through 8 basically function as the eyes and the ears of the world government. They're stationed all over the world. Probably one of the reasons we don't get to see CP1 or CP3 is because they might be stationed in one of the 4 blues, and we're focusing all of our attention right now on the Grand Line, right? So essentially, they're there, just kind of hanging out, just observing. If you're living on some random island in the West Blue and you're in a tavern one night and you speak ill of the world government, and if you, let's say you're in a bar and you're talking to your buddy in the bar and you're like, you know what, I've had it with this heavenly tribute crap. You know what, I was thinking last night, I was saying this to my wife, I was saying I was gonna run off and I was gonna join the Revolutionary Army. And your friend is just like, whoa, man, that's pretty intense. You better be careful what you say. It'll be fine. Glug, glug, glug. Then the guy goes home later that night, opens up his door, and he's like, honey, you know what? I've decided I'm joining the revolutionaries. And his wife is just like, oh, dear, well, that's such a bad decision for you. Because I'm actually a member of CP4! What? We've been married for 7 years! Well, you're coming with me now! It might go down like that, who knows? But no, they're not as, no, actually no, it probably wouldn't go down like that because they're not such a secret organization. They're the ones that walk around sort of like the men in black suits and just like, alright, we're just, yeah, we've heard some information, bring them in for questioning, that kind of stuff. And they might deal with like the civilians, but I think more than anything, the Cipher Pol organizations 1 through 8, they're more focused on like, if a certain kingdom is going to rebel against the world government, if a certain government system is gonna like, hey, we're not gonna pay our heavenly tribute, or we're gonna fund the revolutionaries, or we're gonna help out pirates or something. That's probably something more that the Cipher Pols would get involved with and everything like that, right? And we've at least seen with CP5 when Spondum was heading it up that they're not above doing some like dirty tactics in order to get their way. Like when Spondum commandeered all of Frankie's battle Frankies and made it look like, oh look, there's a horrible thing that this kid is doing, So yeah, so that was CPs 1 through 8. Now CP9, that's the secret organization. That's the one that the regular civilians and the population of the One Piece world don't know about. Their specialty is stealth, infiltration, it helps since nobody knows that they exist, and assassination. That's their thing, okay? And so when the world government wants to know some very specific information, like, for example, the blueprints to a world-destroying super battleship, for instance, you know, they did send a few other government agents to Water 7, remember? Like, they sent that one dude, you know, to go talk to Iceberg, and Iceberg kept turning him down and stuff. So they're not against doing it, like, the official way, but if that doesn't work, they'll do it the unofficial way of, like, sending in CP9 to infiltrate a kingdom or a city, Water 7 in this instance, do deep cover operations that could last years. The CP9 operation, I think, lasted 5 years or some such like that, lasted a really long time, and to get that information that they want, and perform assassinations if deemed necessary. And if that happens, the world government can claim innocence because it's, like, all off the books, and it's like, hey, that didn't actually happen. We weren't involved at Water 7 at all. What, Whitebeard? I mean, not Whitebeard. Whitebeard got assassinated. Well, he kind of did. You know, Iceberg got assassinated. We don't know anything about that. And so we get introduced to CP9, of course. They're really strong members in there. We got Rob Lucci, Kaku, Jabra, Kumadori, Khalifa, Fukuro. Oh, Nero. Can't forget about Nero. Something else to bring up about the other Cipher Pols. It really does seem that only Cipher Pol 9 was the one that was equipped with, like, the Rokushiki, the 6 powers. Because from what we learn about Cipher Pol 9, it's like they literally, the government finds orphans in the world, gathers them all up, throws them in, like, one particular island, and they're trained since childhood in the art of, you know, the 6 powers by a 6 powers master, okay? The other Cipher Pols, I don't believe they have such an intense training regimen as that. I think the other, like, if you want to join CP6, it's possible that you could maybe be a Marine first and then transfer to the Cipher Pol, or maybe, like, if you go to, like, maybe I'm sure when you want to join the Marines, there's, like, an aptitude test you take, and based on that aptitude test, it's like, okay, you would be better suited for CP4 rather than the Marines, okay? Maybe something like that, like a choice between working for the Marines, like a combat unit, or working for more like an intelligence gathering unit. It might be something like that. And for that reason, though, from what we've seen with, like, Cipher Pols 6 and 7 and 5, those members don't really seem to be able to use the Rokushiki at all. Jerry, when he fought against Sanji, he was one of the strongest members of CP6, and he didn't use any kind of Rokushiki. Same thing with Wanze. Wanze had that, like, Ramen Kempo. Like, so they have special techniques. You know, Jerry trained on Karate Island for most of his life, and Wanze had Ramen Kempo, but they weren't using the 6 powers against Sanji when he fought them. So it's implied there that, yeah, and of course Spondum, of course, doesn't know the 6 powers, and I don't think any of Spondum's CP5 unit use them either. So it really is like, no, it's only CP9, because CP9 is, out of the 9 original CPs, they're the ones that are the strongest, okay, because they're trained since childhood. Now then you get to CP Aegis 0. By the way, just speaking of Aegis, yeah, it does mean shield, in sort of like a roundabout way. It's not like a literal just translation directly to shield. And Aegis was a symbol that was worn by Greek deities. It was also utilized by Roman culture as well back in the day. Athena had a symbol on her garb that was known as an Aegis. In other stories, Zeus had a breastplate that had an Aegis on it. It was more of just, it did kind of resemble a shield, like the one Athena had in some context, had like the face of the Medusa on it, like a Medusa-shaped shield. It looked really badass, but in other cases it was just like a piece of clothing. It was more of a symbol, and it's actually that symbol that makes a lot more sense when you actually look at it from that context. It's a symbol of great power. It's like if, for example, you had the Aegis of Zeus or Athena, it's like you were, you know, protected by that higher power. You were here because Athena sent you or Zeus sent you, and you have great power from that. Kind of the same way that the Cipher Pol Zero do the bidding of the Tenryubito. The Tenryubito are set up essentially as the gods of the One Piece world on the mortal plane anyway. They're regular humans. They're just really full of themselves, but they consider themselves as gods, and they control the whole world. So if you see them coming to town and they tell you to bow down, it probably would be in your best interest to bow down, okay? Other than that, or you just die. So, yeah, they're the gods, ostensibly, in the One Piece world. So the Aegis Zero is their shield, and they have the right to do what they do because of the Tenryubito's existence. So let me tell you something. The Tenryubito, for the most part, whenever we see them, are just really, really just full of themselves nobles. They're just sitting around and then drinking their wine. It's like, oh my goodness, this golden plate and golden fork would do great with this golden goblet and this golden spaghetti. More gold dust on my golden spaghetti. That's the way we normally see them. Now, I'm sure there's a good hefty chunk of Tenryubito that are just like that, like Charlos was, for example. But then you get some of the other world nobles that are a little older and are a little bit more well-versed in how the world operates. The Gorosei are members of the world nobles, for instance. I'm sure there's other ones that are much more finely tuned. I mean, they're still awash in luxury, but they're still kind of finely tuned to the way the world actually works. And they might play roles in various political decisions, okay? Now, whenever they're gonna do that, though, let's say the Tenryubito want to make a meeting with a king or a queen of a certain kingdom, or they want to go somewhere for business, not just for pleasure, like the Roswalds, they went to Sabaody just to kind of chill out for vacation and just, go to the auction house and everything like that, as nobles tend to do. Let's say they actually wanted to do something based on, business, make a deal or something with another kingdom. They're not going to go by themselves. I mean, I guess they could, but they don't have to because they're world nobles, okay? The whole thing of being a world noble is I can kind of do whatever I want, whenever I want, I could go wherever I want, and I don't really have to do anything that I don't want to do. That's the whole point of being a world noble. So they send the CP Aegis Zero. They're the ones that go in the stead as the proxies of the world nobles to make deals and stuff. So case in point, Wano. Wano's a particular kind of situation because it's not allied with the world government, and they split off a really long time ago, and they have this policy of isolationism, and then Kaido got involved, and Orochi took over as the shogun, so there's a lot of different things going on here, and plus, they're the main source of sea prism stone mines in the world, okay? So, adds a lot of different layers to the relationship between the Tenryubito and Wano, but we know the Tenryubito, the proxies of the Tenryubito, the CP0, they have met with Orochi on several occasions, and in one instance, even provided Orochi with a bunch of battleships. In exchange for maybe Orochi providing them with some sea prism to be utilized by the Marines, or of something of that nature, or to use to line their ships, or to use in Vegapunk's research. I'm sure there's other resources you can get, sea prism in the world, but Wano is the main deposit, so you'd obviously want to be in good graces with them. And the world nobles want nothing more than just take control of Wano completely, which I think is a very likely thing that might occur by the end of this arc after Wano Kuni is opened up. Then the Marines get involved, then the world nobles get involved, the CPs come in, and it might not be good after that. I'm not really sure how this is going to go down after Kaido and Big Mom and Orochi are all defeated, but we'll just have to wait and see on that. But the CPs do arrive at Wano, and they do have a discussion with Orochi, and Orochi is getting really full of himself as well, even more so than the world nobles maybe in that context, where Orochi is just like, I'm a Lord Orochi! I control all of Wano! I have Kaido! He's a duck dragon! And with him by my side, I am unstoppable! And so, they're like, well, what do you want from us? And he's like, I demand Dr. Vegapunk! I want him to come here and work for me, and he will build me giant Orochi robots that will take over the world! And CP is just like, yeah, we're not gonna do that. We're not gonna give you freaking Dr. Vegapunk, the man that has knowledge 500 years in the future, advanced, that has the ability to make robots that can fire laser beams. We're not just gonna hand him over to you. And Orochi, what does Orochi do? He takes out a pistol and just pops one of the freaking CP0s right in the head. Now, they don't die. They're wearing, masks. Yeah, that's another thing, too, about the Cipher Pol Aigis Zero. Are they a secret organization, too? I would assume they are, but the thing is with the CP is, we saw them walking around Dressrosa dressed like this, that's not gonna raise a red flag, that's not gonna raise, alert to anybody walking around, look, the CP9, they also wore the really elaborate carnival masks during Water 7, but there was a reason for that. They were, there was a big carnival going on at one of the other islands, like San Faldo, and there was a bunch of people all wearing carnival masks walking around Water 7, so in that one particular instance, they were kind of blending in. Right? They were kind of blending in. But this is not really blending in, just walking around just like this. So I don't think the CP0 I don't think they're a complete like a secret organization the same way that the CP9 is. Okay, because the CP9 is just like, okay, nobody's supposed to know they exist because assassination is their thing. I think the CP0, you don't get to see them very often, but people still know of their existence. Like there's some murmurings around the taverns, around the water coolers that are like, yeah, there's like an elite guard of the Tenryubito, and they wear white suits, and they're apparently called the CP0. You probably won't see them or encounter them in your daily life, but because they only really go where the Tenryubito want them to go, and they stay at Reverie and like Marijois and stuff like that. But they do exist, so I think that's the way it kind of works more for the CP0. Like they're secretive, but not as much as you think. They can just walk around town. You see these guys coming, just turn and run in the opposite direction. Okay. These guys, by the way, we really don't know even who they are because they haven't taken their masks off yet. In Artor's and Gemini's little fan chapters, The Return to Reverie, they just made these characters out to be other members of CP9 like Kumadori and Jabra, which makes perfect sense because if Kaku and Lucci and Spondum and Hattori are all members of CP Aegis Zero now, it would make sense that the other strong members of CP9 would also just be recruited in that. I'm wondering what the recruitment process is for CP0, if you have to be a member of CP9 first, because with CP0, you have to know the 6 powers. Like, it's pretty much a requirement. You have to know that. And I think you also, in addition to knowing that, you also have to know Haki, because all the CP9 members we found out from the Vivre cards learned Haki over the course of the time skip. So Lucci knows armament and observation, Kaku knows armament observation. They all know, like, armament observation Haki at the base, on top of the Rokushiki techniques. Actually, you know what? What I just said earlier about being able to know Rokushiki and Haki, that's not true because Spondum is a member of CP0. I keep forgetting that because he's Spondum. You know what? You know what I think that might be? Oh, by the way, that also implies that Hattori knows 6 powers in Haki, and of course he does. You know, Hattori gets involved in a fight, it's all over. He's their trump card. But Spondum is Spondum, alright? There's no way. If it doesn't, you could give me a 2-year time skip, you could be a 20-year time skip. Spondum would not be able to learn armament Haki on the level of, like, the straw. It's not gonna happen. So you know what I think happened? I think, you know, Lucci had that whole thing where he, like, defected from the world government for that little while, the CP9 independent report, where they all kind of left, and they even spoke to Spondine and Spondum, and they were like, hey, one day we will return. I'm thinking that in order for the world government to get back into the good graces of the CP9, because the world government really knew, okay, Lucci, Kaku, Jabra, they're all really strong. We can't have them just defect and go off in the world and do other things. We need to get them back working for us. So I think maybe some other members of the like CP0, the previous incarnation before Lucci joined, the CP0 or some other government officials got in contact with the CP9 that were like on the run, and they met up with them over the time skip, and they said, okay, listen, we will promote you to CP Aegis Zero. We will give you so many benefits if you come back into the fold and work for the world government. We'll give you anything that you want. We're open to negotiation. We really need your power to protect the world nobles. And I would laugh so damn hard if Lucci just stepped forward. Cold, chill, stoic Lucci. He just walked forward and he was just like, I see. CP Aegis Zero, huh? I agree on one condition. I require someone to be my loyal servant during this little incursion. I want someone to be like my secretary, to like listen to me and then do whatever I say. And they're like, okay, we can get somebody for that. No, not just anyone. I want a very specific person to do this for me. Like, okay, well, who is it? Spondum. You mean that doofus that was the previous... Why would you want him? I just want him. Okay, sure. And then the world government, like, forced Spondum to be like, you're a member of Cipher Pol Aigis Zero now. Oh, really? That's crazy. Yeah, and you're gonna listen to everything Lucci says. Everything. Here you go. And so that makes me think that's the reason why the Cipher Pol decided to join back up with the world government. It's like, all right, we were going to go off on our own and go do our own little adventure, but we joined back up. No, that's the reason. Like, all right, so Lucci now is, like, once again kind of taking out all of his frustrations on Spondum for all the years of Spondum being this really, really ineffectual commander. You know, so that I think is what happened there. Okay. Other members that we see are Stussy. Stussy being the one that, like, I just covered that in the Underworld video I did earlier this week, where Stussy works for the world government as her main job, but she also went undercover as the queen of the pleasure district in the Underworld. So that's like a really impressive thing that, you know, because you can imagine all the different channels and influence that the world government has. So she is literally a member of CP0, but also the head of an Underworld entire like prostitution ring, essentially. So that's impressive, right? So, who are some other members, though, of CP0? Well, we don't know for certain, but I have a few theories, okay? So, we got to see, going along with the logic that maybe former members of CP9 become later members of CP0, there was a former incarnation of CP9 that we saw during the Ohara incident, okay? Spondine was the commander. Spondine was the father of Spondum. But we also see a guy by the name of Lashki. Lashki is Khalifa's father. And we also see this other dude that had kind of like frizzy hair and like the glasses. We don't know his name, but he appeared quite a bit during that flashback. He was another prominent member of CP9 back then. So it's very possible. I'm not really sure exactly about Spondine, although it's possible. But I'm thinking it's also likely that Lashki and this dude might actually also be members of CP0. That they were promoted years ago after the Ohara incident, and then they became CP9. I mean, they became CP0, and then, you know, maybe they're one of the members, like, behind the mask. CP Aegis Zero has also been around for a very long time because we get to see a flashback with Mother Caramel meeting with them. You know, the whole, like, she's the mountain witch, and she's making deals to, like, you know, sell off the children of her orphanage to become members of the world government. So the CP Aegis Zero, they've been at this for decades and hundreds of years, probably ever since the world government was founded, right? But yeah, I don't think it's such a stretch of the imagination to say that some of the members that were present during the Ohara incident, including Spondine, also became, you know, members of CP0 that are behind the masks right now. We don't even know about the full number. We don't even know. I think right now, including everybody that we know about, including all of the masked individuals, including Spondum, including Spondum's sword, Funkfried, which is more battle prowess than Spondum, including Hattori, which why wouldn't you include Hattori, and Stussy, and all the members, maybe not including Jabra and, like, Kumadori and Khalifa, because we don't know 100% if they're involved yet. But going with all those characters we've seen on screen, I think there's only like 10 members of CP0. If you want to include Khalifa, Jabra, Kumadori, Fukuro... Nero's dead, right? Yeah, Nero's dead. Let's not include Nero. Am I forgetting any other member of CP9 here? I feel like I might be. But if I'm not, then that's like 14 people of CP0. I feel to have a prime combat unit that meant to, like, protect the world nobles at all cost and to kind of go wherever they are. You need a lot more members than just 14, 15, whatever. I think you probably need to have a couple dozen of, like, the best of the best of the best. So there's probably a lot more members of Cipher Pol Zero. I would love to see just the full scope of it. Like, Cipher Pol Zero has a meeting, and Oda draws that, and it's like a double-page spread of, like, all the members of Cipher Pol Aigis Zero are just kind of lined up. And there might be a Supreme Commander, too. Like, the Ultimate Commanders is the World Nobles. I'm talking, they're the ones that order them around. But I'm talking, like, the World Nobles are not going to, like, give them tactical orders and stuff, and, like, it's like, okay, we're having a meeting today. They're not going to do that. They're just the ones that they're meant to protect. Lucci might very well be in that role of, like, the commander of Cipher Pol Zero, but that's never been explained before. That's never been explained that a CP0 is headed up, commanded by, like, Rob Lucci. He might be high up in the echelon, but he might not be the supreme commander. There might be like an actual commander at the very, very top. I guess that also might be Kong, because Kong is the commander-in-chief of the world government. It goes Im-sama, then the Gorosei, and then directly under the Gorosei there's Kong, and Kong commands the Shichibukai, or the former Shichibukai, and then he also commands the Cipher Pol Zero. And he's also kind of even further above the fleet admiral in terms of the Marines, right? But he commands the Cipher Pols. So it might even be Kong. Kong might show up dressed in, like, the white suit, and he might be like, I am the commander of Cipher Pol Zero. That would make sense because he's already a character that's been established, or it could be somebody else that's, like, directly under him, because Kong has, like, a lot of stuff on his plate. He has a lot of different organizations he has to kind of keep tabs on. So maybe there's somebody else that kind of handles the day-to-day work. But yeah, Cipher Pol Zero, I'm thinking that at some point we're going to have an arc that's not necessarily going to be a rehash of Annie's Lobby, but it's going to be an arc where the Straw Hats are going to have to deal with CP0, where they might still be after Robin, because Robin still has the access to the poneglyphs and knows how to read them and everything like that, and that's definitely something the World Nobles want their hands on, and the ancient weapons. So Robin still knows this information. They just tried to bring her in once, and it resulted in the CP9 being devastated and Annie's Lobby being completely obliterated by a Buster Call. So they're probably a little bit reticent to try immediately again to bring Nico Robin in, especially what happened the last time, but they still might very well try that. I also really like the way that Artor and Gemini handled it in the Return to Reverie, where the Cipher Pol Zero all faced off against the revolutionaries, like the commanders like Lindbergh and everybody during Marijois. They might, Oda might still do that as well, because the Cipher Pols are present at Marijois. That's the one thing. CP9 can pretty much go anywhere in the world. CP0, though, they pretty much have to either stay in Marijois to protect the Tenryubito, or if they're going to go somewhere, it's going to be like official Tenryubito business. But because of that reason, Cipher Pol does exist right now in Wano. They're wandering around, and even Drake reported that information over to Kobe as they're members of SWORD, which, if Aegis means shield, SWORD means sword, Xing, okay? So they're very clear that the SWORD group does not work in tandem with CP0, because Drake was very surprised that the CP0 were even there, so they obviously don't exchange information, and it's very possible CP Aegis 0 doesn't even know about the existence of SWORD, so they're opposite ends of here. But yeah, if the CP0 is there to protect the Tenryubito at all costs, they're gonna have to be defeated if you want to dissolve the system that Dragon wants to do. Dragon wants to get rid of the Tenryubito system. You're gonna have to go through the shield first. You're gonna have to bust through the Aegis and then get their way there, and then after that, the Tenryubito are yours for the taking at that point. Meanwhile, SWORD might have a more noble cause to personally assemble a tactical strike unit to take on the Yonko directly. Not something directly involved with the Tenryubito, right? But yeah, a lot of stuff interesting going on with the CP0. I like their design. I like that they brought back a lot of members of CP9, and I want to see what's from Hattori. Hattori, man, I joke about that, but it would be amazing if there was a scene where Rob Lucci's getting a rematch with Luffy, and then Hattori jumps off and turns his whole body into a hockey bullet and just bounces around the room and there's hits Luffy or something. We knew it. We knew that pigeon was godly. All right. Well, anyway. Thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed this video. This will be Teching 101 signing out. The shield. Like some kind of shield hero.